You've put in the work. You're showing up to the gym. You're sitting down to code every single morning. You're diligently studying for your exams. Honestly, you feel like you're doing everything exactly right. You are consistent. But what if I told you that the very habits you bled to build are now secretly holding you back? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of mastery to uncover a really uncomfortable truth: why so many of us hit a massive wall right when we think we're finally succeeding. Our source material hits us with a pretty profound realization right out of the gate. Habits are the backbone of excellence, but they come at a cost. At first, every time you repeat an action, you're gaining fluency, speed, and skill. You're leveling up. But then this incredibly subtle, dangerous shift happens. As a habit becomes automatic, your brain kind of goes, okay, we got this, and you literally become less sensitive to feedback. You stop paying attention to the tiny little errors. Without even realizing it, you slip into a comfort zone of mindless repetition, where just doing it good enough on autopilot means you completely stop thinking about how to do it better.
Section 1. The Anatomy of a Plateau.
So there is a harsh reality in behavioral science that we need to talk about. Gaining experience absolutely does not mean you are automatically improving. A lot of the time, you're just deeply reinforcing your own flaws. We tend to mistake repetition for evolution, right? To understand why we stagnate, we really have to look at the tension between automaticity and deliberate practice. Think about a chess player. It's only after the basic movements of the pieces become totally automatic that the player can actually focus on the deeper strategy of the game. That is the upside of automaticity. It frees up your mental RAM. But the downside? We start assuming we're getting better just because we're playing the game every day. In reality, to become exceptional, we can't just blindly repeat the same things. We need conscious, deliberate effort. So how do elite performers break out of this psychological plateau? Section 2. The Mastery Formula. Breaking the Plateau.
Think about what the typical journey looks like for most of us. As your repetitions increase, your automaticity goes up. That's a given. You don't have to think about the task anymore. But notice what happens to your actual performance line. It completely flatlines. It plateaus. Your skill level just stops climbing. This is the tragic trap of the habit line. You are incredibly consistent, yes, but you are also utterly stagnant.
Now, in stark contrast, think about what mastering a field actually looks like. It is not a smooth, unending, magical upward curve. Not at all. It's actually a series of plateaus that are intentionally, painstakingly broken. You master a skill until it's automatic. But right when things get comfortable, right when you feel that dangerous, cozy tug of complacency, you deliberately add a new layer of difficulty. Which brings us to a really crucial equation from our source. Habits plus deliberate practice equals mastery. After one habit has been mastered, you can't just coast. You have to return to the effortful, uncomfortable part of the work and begin building the next habit. You narrow your focus to a tiny, specific element of success, internalize it, and then use it as a foundation for the next frontier. And look, it doesn't get easier over time because you are constantly pouring your energy into the next challenge. It's an endless cycle of refinement. But that raises a big question. How do you know what to refine? How do you prevent yourself from sliding back into that autopilot trap?
Section 3, Reflection and Review. The source highlights this incredible story about the 1986 Los Angeles Lakers. So they were one of the most wildly talented basketball teams ever assembled, right? But they had just suffered a devastating loss in the playoffs. Coach Pat Riley realized something important. Raw talent wasn't enough. They needed a system to prevent the gradual, almost invisible fade in performance that happens to successful people. So he created the Career Best Effort, or CBE program. But he didn't just track points. He tracked unsung hero deeds. Diving for loose balls, helping a teammate when a player surged past them, the little things. He asked every single player to improve their overall output by just 1% over the season, comparing their performance month by month, year over year. By making the invisible visible through continuous review, the Lakers ended up winning back-to-back NBA championships the very next year. And we see this exact same principle across absolutely every discipline of elite performance. Take Olympic gold medalist marathoner Eliud Kipchoge. He takes detailed notes after every single practice to search for tiny areas of improvement. Swimming legend Katie Ledecky, she records her wellness on a scale of 1 to 10, noting things like nutrition and sleep, and reviews it weekly with her coach. Even comedian Chris Rock brings a little notepad into tiny, low-stakes nightclubs to test hundreds of jokes, recording exactly what works and what completely fails before he ever builds a new stadium show. The through line here: top performers never, ever rely on automaticity alone. Now, you definitely don't have to be an Olympian to apply this. The source outlines a very personal, incredibly simple framework: an annual review. You literally just ask yourself 3 questions. 1. what went well this year? 2, what didn't go so well? And 3, what did I learn? Doing this, even taking just a few hours a year to sit down and do this, prevents that gradual slide into mediocrity. It forces you to look in the mirror from an accurate distance. You're not obsessing over every daily imperfection, but you're making sure you're still climbing the right mountain. But if reviewing our performance is so helpful, why is it so incredibly hard for us to admit our flaws and actually change course?
Section 4. The Identity Trap. The legendary investor Paul Graham once famously advised, keep your identity small. This is so important. When you first start building habits, they help you form a new, desired identity, which is great. But eventually, those same deeply held beliefs can totally trap you and hold you back from the next level of growth. The source explains that your identity creates this kind of internal pride that actually encourages you to deny your weak spots. It's the veteran manager who ignores younger colleagues because, hey, he's the boss, or the school teacher who shuts down new teaching methods because she does things her way. The tighter you cling to an identity, the harder it becomes to grow beyond it.
This brings us to a vital framework for psychological survival. When you define yourself way too narrowly, saying, for example, I am an athlete or I am the CEO, what happens when the season ends or the company gets sold? You face a complete identity crisis. You become brittle. The key to mitigating this is to redefine yourself so that your identity flows and works with changing circumstances. So instead of I am an athlete, it becomes I am the type of person who is mentally tough and loves a physical challenge. Instead of I am the CEO, it becomes I am the type of person who builds and creates things. And honestly, this isn't just modern psychology, it is ancient, fundamental wisdom. There's a powerful quote from the Tao Te Ching in our source material that perfectly captures this. Men are born soft and supple. Dead, they are stiff and hard. Plants are born tender and pliant. Dead, they are brittle and dry. Thus, whoever is stiff and inflexible is a disciple of death. Whoever is soft and yielding is a disciple of life. The takeaway, if you want to keep improving, you absolutely must remain soft, yielding, and radically open to shedding your old skin.
Section 5. The Endless Cycle.
So this brings us to the profound philosophical reality of what it truly means to commit to lifelong growth. The text introduces an ancient Greek parable known as the Socrates paradox. It poses a simple question. Can one coin make a person rich? Well, no, of course not. But what if you add another and another? At some point, you have to admit that wealth was built by a single tiny addition. The exact same logic applies to our habits. One positive change, 1 minute of meditation, one single line of code, it doesn't magically transform you overnight. Early on, it just gets washed away by the weight of your old system. But gradually, as you layer these tiny 1% changes day after day, the scales of your life actually start to move. They compound.
And this leads us to the ultimate, overarching takeaway from the text. Success is not a goal to reach or a finish line to cross. It is a system to improve, an endless process to refine. There is no permanent solution, guys. There is no magical endpoint where you get to just stop trying. But that's the beauty of it. It is remarkable the body you can build if you just don't stop training. It's remarkable the knowledge you can build if you don't stop learning. The real secret to lasting results is simply to never, ever stop making improvements.
You have the system now. You understand the hidden danger of the autopilot trap. You know the raw power of deliberate practice and the absolute non-negotiable necessity of reflection. But the real barrier between where you are right now and your next level of mastery, it's almost always the story you are telling yourself about who you are. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, deeply personal question to reflect on today. What identity do you need to let go of right now to break your plateau?